but it was mainly just four seams and sliders tonight, really, for the most part. And that's when Carlos Rodon has those two pitches working, that's when he's his most dominant.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. With me, as usual, is my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
What a big win for those New York Knicks.
That's true. That's true. If you're watching the show and listening, we're not up at midnight because we had a Knicks game to watch. Yeah, we had a Knicks game to watch while keeping track of what the Yankees were doing, obviously. For
Two TVs, Stace.
Yeah. That's what you got to do. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like the videos, hit the bell so you're notified when those videos go live. And coming up on today's show, we preview the pitching matchup for Game 2 between the Yankees and the Twins. The Athletic published an article about a mentor that Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman have leaned on so far in 2024. But first, the Yankees beat the Twins in the first game of the series, and it was started by the aforementioned Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, another impressive start, a real big bounce back performance for him. Well, a bounce back from the Orioles start. He looked really good in this game, and something I'm noticing, he's going back to his Cy Young status type years where he's only becoming a two-pitch pitcher.
Yep.
Right? He's dominant with the fastball and the slider, and I think later, as his career developed more, he tried to lengthen his arsenal, right, and become a four-pitch pitcher, a three-pitch pitcher. He got the cutter involved. He got the changeup involved. And he threw the changeup a little bit tonight, but it was mainly just four seams and sliders tonight, really, for the most part. And that's when Carlos Rodon has those two pitches working, that's when he's his most dominant. So I'm really interested to see what he chooses to do going forward, because it seems like he mixes it up, right, Stacey? It's like every other start, you don't really know what you're going to get out of him.
Right. I mean, I guess it depends on when you're warming up before the game. You pretty much can tell which pitches feel right and which don't. And, sometimes you just have to go out there and be like, all right, this is what's working tonight. This is what I'm going to have to use. Although, legend has it, David Wells said his bullpen was terrible before his perfect game. So you never know how those things work.
There's some guys you've heard from in history that say that their bullpens are always terrible. That they don't have them right, and then all of a sudden they get on the mound and they're perfect.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I think guys feel more comfortable when they have other pitchers in the arsenal, right? Where they know their two pitches are dominant. Like CC Sabathia got through his whole career with three pitches, pretty much. That slider, fastball, changeup, that rotation. His fastball was so deadly as a lefty that it worked. But as you saw, as his career developed, as he lost velocity and pop on that fastball, CC went out and developed a cutter. And he developed a cutter from actually learning from that same mentor we're going to talk about later on in segment 2, who has really helped, now talking generations of Yankee pitchers. But the Carlos Rodon stuff is fascinating. After the year that he had last year, he could have very well folded it in and taken a seat back and kind of blended in with the rest of this rotation, right? Because everyone's pitching really well. Yeah. And he could have very well blended in with Stroman and blended in with Schmidt and blended in with Heel and been your everyday regular Yankee pitcher. That's nothing. And he has instead taken the lead, taken the reins of this rotation, and become your ace. That's really what he's become. So I've loved what I've seen out of him this year. He's really only had 2 hiccup starts. You can't ask for more out of what he's given you.
Yep. So 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, a lot of sixes in there. Gave up that first inning home run to the first batter of the game for him, Jeffers. And after that, didn't settle down immediately after that, but then settled down and was fine. His wife had some funny comments on Twitter about his performance. As you said, heavy on the 4-seam, heavy on the slider, 102 pitches, 56 4-seamers, 29 sliders. The rest of the pitches, a few there. So that combo worked again, and he had 14 swings and misses led the game in that stat. He had 5 swings and misses on the slider, 4 on the 4-seam.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the perfect formula he wants to go for. But sometimes when those pitches aren't working, I guess he'd send. Maybe that's what he does, right? Maybe it's when the fastball or the slider aren't working. That's when he starts going to the cutter and the changeup. And he starts second guessing himself. But when he's on, he's really dominant with those 2 pitches. I think again, guys like to create that safety blanket for themselves for later on in their career and kind of create like the 3rd or 4th pitch. But right now, he doesn't need that. He's that good with 2 pitches.
Yeah. The offense against Chris Paddack. He went 5 innings, gave up 12 hits. Whew. Oh, I forgot to put how many runs he gave up. 12 hits, 5 runs. 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Gave up a bullet of a home run to the guy with the fastest swing in baseball, Giancarlo Stanton. Every starter had at least 1 hit, which was great because, you know, you like to see the Yankees doing stuff like that. I mean, the way they first scored, single, sac fly, love to see it. Stanton had 2, Volpe had 2, Torres had 2, Cabrera had 2. So
that's the big one too. Is Torres, like getting him going, he's now for the better half of a week been playing really much better baseball, really a lot more confident baseball. You can tell. We mentioned this when he was struggling in the middle of his struggles, right? When Gleyber starts to struggle, he tends to flare a lot on his swing. And he's been much more dialed in these last couple at bats, the last week or so, last really half week. He's really dialed it in. So, you know, it's funny when you look at guys that struggle in this team. It tends to be an ebb and flow kind of thing. Remember those comments Boone had a few weeks ago where he was kind of hoping that when one guy struggles, one guy plays better, and one guy struggles. And I don't want that out of your superstars. You don't want, you know, Soto to be playing great and Judge to be like, I can take a few weeks off because Soto's got this going right now. You know, you don't want that attitude. But guys that are lower in your lineup, like a Gleyber Torres, like a, well, not lately, but Verdugo is a lower lineup player. When those guys struggle, you want other guys in the lineup to pick it up for them. And you're seeing it now with Gleyber. Gleyber's starting to pick it up. He's starting to get a little more confidence. You're going to need guys like that because, you know, as we, you know, if I could use a little cross sports analogy right now, everyone's been complaining lately about the Knicks' lack of depth, right? And then the playoffs that's killing them. Turns out in baseball, it's the exact same thing. Later on in the postseason, generally, who's the guy you need a big hit out of? It's your 7-hole leader. It's your 8-hole hitter, right? Those are always the guys that are coming out with 2 runs on in the 8th inning, and you need a big hit, right? And you need to rely on those guys later on in the postseason. It's not always going to be Aaron Judge in a big at-bat against Verlander or what you have that's going to be able to come up with all the confidence in the world. Sometimes it's going to be an Alex Verdugo. It's going to be a Gleyber Torres with 2 guys on. And you got to go up there having confidence that guy's going to drive a run in. So that depth becomes huge. You need to start working on those parts of the lineup. So seeing production out of those guys really gives you a lot of confidence going forward.
Yep. Bullpen, just Hamilton and Holmes. Hamilton, 2 innings, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. Holmes pitched the 9th, just didn't give up anything. Ground out, 2 flyouts. Like no strikeouts, no walks, just contact. Still has the 0.00 ERA.
Yeah, and both of their stuff was filthy tonight. If you saw specifically Hamilton's sinker tonight was the movement on that pitch. I mean, he's throwing it now at like 98 miles an hour. I don't think I've ever seen someone throw a sinker at that much velocity. He has a 2-seam grip on it, which is weird. He doesn't generally with sinkers, you have a little bit of a wider grip on that ball. It's not just on the 2 seams directly like a fastball. And his sinker grip, he might be actually throwing a 2-seamer, but his ball just has so much dip on it that it appears like a sinker. But it lists as a sinker at MLB.com. You know, all the announcers, he calls it a sinker when he talks about it in interviews. So you gotta call it a sinker. But I mean, Stacey, he's throwing that pitch at like 98 miles an hour. I mean, his velocity is ridiculous. Both of them have looked outrageous. Do you think using them in a 4-run game was just to get them some work?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it was. One interesting thing during the game, John Boy brought it up on Twitter and said that he thought that Paddack was tipping his pitches, and Cameron Maben replied right away and said, oh, he's been tipping his pitches since 2019, and we told him back then that he was doing it. And interestingly enough, Paddack was with San Diego back in 2019. It was his rookie season, went 9-7 with a 3.33 ERA, which is pretty good. He did give up 23 home runs. He has not pitched over 100 innings since 2021. He pitched just over 108. So he's working his way back to, I guess, previous form, but it's been a while since he's been like that.
When he was coming up, you had heard about him for years. I mean, he was the top pitching prospect in baseball for like 2 or 3 years. Came up, had a nice rookie year, and then has never stayed healthy, consistent. None of it since then. So, I mean, what a weird career that he's gotten off to so far. You really like to see him bounce back if he could. But yeah, I mean, he's probably been tipping his pitches. That's why guys get hit really hard.
Yeah, it was just funny. Like Cameron Maimons, like, yeah, we've been telling him that since 2019. He's known that. Yeah, like, yeah. Coming up in segment 2, we're going to tell you about the mentor. You know who the mentor is because you probably saw that. It's Andy Pettitte. Who else would it be? It's a lefty. It's a legendary lefty Yankee pitcher who likes to have relationships with these guys and helping them. He helped Jordan Montgomery, he helped Stacey, and now he's helping the new guys. It's great. I love it. So we'll talk about that in segment 2. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. Also reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday if you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday. Or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions. There's a 14-day free trial. So again, coming up next, everyone loves Andy Pettitte. Locked On Yankees is sponsored by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the noise. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees.
So Stacey, we figured out who the mentor is. You kind of spoiled it at the end of the last segment. I wanted to see if the listeners of the show would be able to guess it. I mean, it was pretty obvious though if you're a Yankee fan. Andy Pettitte, who is a special advisor for the Yankees, which sounds like an awesome role because they did actually go over his schedule in the Athletic article. By the way, if you don't have the Athletic, free advertising, they are tremendous. So you get really good insight on your team. But they went over Andy Pettitte's schedule, first of all, with as a special advisor for the Yankees. He basically calls up Cashman and says, I want to work this weekend. And Cashman says, sounds good. See you there. And they send him play information and he comes in and works, which is just a tremendous gig to have. Like, I wish we could have that gig, right? Like, I'm going to work this weekend, and that's when you show up.
Yeah.
But Pettitte started his conversation with Rodon off after his Baltimore start that was a little rocky. And said, did you go back and watch your start yet? And Rodon basically responded with I don't do that. I haven't done it in years. I don't like to watch film on myself. I kind of just, when I have a bad start, I wash it all away and I go on to the next game. And Pettitte kind of refuted that and said, it doesn't work. That works for me. I like watching my other starts. So Rodon has gotten back to doing that. Not to the level of Andy Pettitte where he meticulously goes after every single pitch, but Rodon has gotten into the point of breaking down every at-bat or the at-bats that he felt that he struggled in. That is something that Andy Pettitte stressed over his entire career. And it taught him how to deal with certain hitters. And it more, Andy Pettitte has said in the past, has helped him work towards fixing his own problems. If he noticed things that he wasn't doing properly. And I think it's worked for Rodon. It's also worked for Marcus Stroman. And I think that one's key too, because Marcus Stroman, you've seen throughout his career, right? He's had a couple run-ins with guys. He hasn't necessarily gotten along with everybody in clubhouses that he's been with. He's definitely had run-ins with the media before. He can be, let me use for lack of a better phrase, a little prickly around the edges when it comes to people that are not inside the baseball circle talking baseball with him, right? Sure. He doesn't want to, and a lot of athletes are like that, where if you want to talk the ins and outs of the game, they don't want to talk it with you if you haven't played the game. They don't. Right. They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear your take, which I get. Do I necessarily agree with it? No, but I understand where those guys are coming from. Mm-hmm. However, he did make a statement when it came to talking to Andy Pettitte that it's nice to talk to someone who's not involved in all the analytics of the game and just knows about baseball to a baseball man. And he has spoken about it, how he has learned better things about grip, better things about controlling his mental side on the mound, because Rodon is a big mental guy on the mound. Stroman is too, and they've both learned from Andy Pettitte, who's one of the mentally tougher guys. I mean, who pitched in bigger games than Andy Pettitte, right? So you've gotten, there's a lot of value to having these guys attached to your, I know you're a big Andy Pettitte fan, but there's a lot of value to these guys being attached to your organization still. Like, I love Jeter. I love that Jeter has a role, right? I love that A-Rod has a role because there's value behind that. I want you to, we can go into the other 90s players first, because I think that's important also, but I want to get your opinion on Andy Pettitte because you watched more of his career than I kind of saw the latter part of his career, and you saw the whole career. I want to get your opinion because you've seen him pitch in every big start that he's really pitched ever. What is your overall sense of how you feel about him being involved with the modern day rotation?
Oh, I love it. I always wanted him to be that sort of a guy. And I think once his younger kids get out of the age where he needs to be around, you will see him maybe become a pitching coach, maybe be like a Mel Stottlemyre later on in his career. I love it so much. Andy Pettitte is the pitcher I've seen the most live. Playoffs, really? Regular season. Oh, yeah. I mean, I really wish I could figure out every single game that I've seen him pitch. It has to be at least 50. At least. Like, I'm not even kidding. There were seasons where
it was just random, or it was intentional?
It was whatever I had season tickets, like, you know, certain seasons would work out where I would see him start all the time. Okay. 2003, he was the only starting pitcher I saw in the playoffs. You know, he started every game too. I was at every game too. So, you know, okay. I saw him pitch twice in 2009, right? Yeah. Like, I've seen him pitch so much. It's unbelievable. And I really, like I said, I wish I could figure out the exact number, because it's insane how much I've seen that man pitch. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the mental toughness too, the mental side, because I think that's the thing that a lot of pitchers struggle with. I think that's why opposing pitchers have a lot of trouble pitching in Yankee Stadium. Like, especially in big games, when you have 60,000 people that are screaming at a different level than they're screaming at other ballparks. You know, New York sports fans are a little more attached to their
especially
team.
Back in the 90s in the old stadium, you know, the upper deck was pretty much over the field. And, you know, my seats were in the upper deck, but we were right there, and the noise was just insane.
And that's a thing that opposing pitchers tend to struggle with. They're not ready for that. You're not used to it. You're not accustomed to it. But you got to remember, those nerves are also on the other side too. You know, when Andy Pettitte's pitching in a game in July and August, doesn't exactly have the same crowd that's there in the middle of, you know, October, an October 10th game or something like that. So you got to remember the amount of big starts that he pitched in. There are so many games you go back to where the opposing pitcher struggled and Andy Pettitte is just money. 6-7 innings, gave you 2 runs, exactly what you needed. You need a guy like that, and he has the experience. And these are going to be starts that Rodon is going to be, like, Rodon's going to be your game 2 starter, the exact same role that Andy Pettitte was in. Stroman is going to be pitching in big games in the Bronx. You're going to depend on these guys. You're going to need these guys. Like, there's a chance if the Yankees don't finish at the top of their division, which there's a chance the Orioles do finish, you know, better than them. In an ALCS game, the Yankees could be, you know, having game 3 in Yankee Stadium, not game 1 and 2, which means Marcus Stroman's going to pitch game 3 in Yankee Stadium. He's going to pitch the home opener in the postseason, and you're going to need him to be there for that. Garrett Cole had an interesting quote when talking about Andy Pettitte and what he's meant, and he said he just keeps it very simple. He delivers to the point and seems to land with all different personalities, and I think that's key too, because he did cite Matt Blake in the next part of the quote, and while I think guys do appreciate what Matt Blake has brought to the Yankees, and clearly he's brought a lot because you've seen a lot of guys improve their career status from Matt Blake, but Matt Blake comes at it with a much more analytical approach. Hey, throw these pitches in these counts. Go with this grip more on this pitch, which there's room for in the game. Me and Stacey aren't anti-analytic people. There's room for that in the game. But when you have a guy like Pettitte come in and when all you hear is numbers, 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 and then Pettitte kind of, let's take a step back, give it a little bit of a Texas attitude, and just pitch. You know, and that's Pettitte's advice. Just pitch. You got to the big leagues for a reason. That is super helpful. And I think there's an appreciation you're seeing from the players now that it's not just analytics. You're getting an actual baseball guy coming in.
As Rodon said, everyone likes Andy Pettitte. It's hard not to listen to a guy like that.
Yeah, that's your kind of quote. That actually came from Stacey Gotsulias, I'm reading here, not.
Yeah, that was me. That was me saying that about Andy Pettitte. But no, I loved the relationship he had with CeCe, with Jordan Montgomery. They still have a text. They still have a group text together. Those three guys.
He saved CeCe's career.
Yeah,
he did. I mean,
he
say
really
what you want.
did.
At the end of that 2015, 2016 season, you didn't know what CeCe had left in him, and he saved CeCe's career because he developed that cutter and became he became an effective pitcher in his last year. Until his body gave out, he was an effective pitcher. So you gotta love what you're seeing out of this. You gotta love it.
Yep. Coming up next, previewing Game 2, Yankees Twins, and the aforementioned Marcus Stroman will be starting.
Baseball season is in full swing, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your prize picks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your prize pick entry today. Guys, if you took some Knicks prize picks, you benefited last night. Jalen Brunson, huge game. Josh Hart, huge game. Isaiah Hartenstein breaking the Knicks offensive rebound total in a playoff game, the record for the team. You're seeing a lot of impressive things, and you can get yourself involved every single night if you want to get in on prize picks. You could pick anyone from Jalen Brunson, Darren Judge, Artemi Panarin, all of them, anytime, anywhere in your prize pick entries. You can sit on your couch, win money, and prove how good you are of a sports fan. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make prize picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first $100 deposit match. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And also remember that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. You just got to download the SXM app, and you can listen to you got to search the word Yankees, and you can catch every single pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast. Stacey, Game 2 of this series in Minnesota. The once ace, still highly thought of, Pablo Lopez from Miami going up against Marcus Stroman. Pablo Lopez, if I'm not mistaken, was in the Luis Arias trade.
Yes.
Which sent Arias from the Twins to the Marlins, and the Marlins quickly shipped him off after winning a batting title to the Padres. So he's been all over the league now. Pablo Lopez, the guy that the Yankees once really were looking after, or a lot of people wanted the Yankees to go get, and they didn't get. Going up against Stroman, 2-2 at a 3.80. Lopez with a 4-2, 3.89. First, before we go into Lopez and what you think the Yankees can do against him, what are you looking for out of Stroman in this game?
Fewer home runs.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, he's fine. He's lasting long enough. He's pushing through when he does give up home runs. I just want to see a stronger start from him. I want him to continue what the other starters have been doing, and keep the line moving kind of thing, which is what I also want the offense to do against Lopez, like they did against Paddack. It's not going to be as easy, but I would like to see what I saw when they scored that first run, single, sac fly, I love that Judge and Stanton both had infield singles. I thought that was the funniest thing ever, because who would have predicted that to ever happen? But, you know, you don't have to bash home runs all the time. Just hit the ball, get on base, and things will happen.
Well, especially again in the postseason, things change, right? The long ball's not always there in the playoffs.
Right.
I do want to mention this is really big for where the Yankees are at with Stroman, right? Because we were talking about, it was a big talking point with us specifically, how your bullpen's going to burn out. And we were talking about how the bullpen was looking so good in April, but the bullpen's going to burn out if these starters don't go longer into games. And it's almost like, you know, we've heard the Yankees starting rotation are big Locked On Yankees fans, and they listen to us. Clearly they were listening to us, because the starting rotation has gone deeper and deeper and deeper into games. They were, like we were saying to you know, our listeners, give it time. Let's see if they stretch these guys out. Let's let their arms stretch out. They clearly did, because now you're seeing every starter push it into the 6th inning. You're even Schmidt, who was having the worst trouble with that, is going into the 6th. Yeah, he's going into the 7th now. Luis Gil's going into the 7th at almost every start. Stroman pushes into the 7th. Rodon pushed up past the 6th today. So you're seeing a lot of that, and that is saving the bullpen too. If you saw it today on Yes, when they were showing on the broadcast, the amount of innings these guys have pitched lately, a lot of rest that bullpen's getting. And there's an ebb and flow to that, right? Like, you don't want the guys to get too much rest, because then they get rusty, but you don't want them to be pitching every single day. And if you looked at those charts back in April, they were pitching every single day, 10, 12 pitches. That wears and tears on you. Now they're doing a lot less of that. And as a Yankee fan, if you're following their rotation, you have to love that, because it's one thing for their bullpen to be as good as it's been so far. And yes, that'll come into play in October. That'll really be helpful. It's a whole other thing if these guys have all thrown over 100 innings come that time.
Right.
So this is really positive that all these guys are going deep into games.
Yes. Also helpful when the Yankees offense explodes, because then you don't have to use the premium bullpen guys. You can use the guys that you're kind of like, all right, we'll put this guy in for, you know, a couple of innings.
And you can use those guys like, you know, you can use the guys at the end of the minute that are high end rotation guys, not necessarily in high volatile situations, right? You used the Clay Holmes tonight, you used the Ian Hamilton, but you used them tonight just because you needed to use them, just because you needed to get pitches in, not because you really needed to have them save a game. So when you're having guys that are getting used in situations like that, you know, baseball teams aren't like basketball teams and hockey teams or football teams where they're practicing all the time. They don't practice every day. They don't get practice. So it helps to have guys like Clay Holmes and Ian Hamilton pitching in games that aren't as close and aren't as high volatile games. Because believe it or not, they use these kind of games to work on stuff. These are the games that Clay Holmes works on stuff, that Ian Hamilton works on stuff. We've seen him throw that sinker a lot this year. I haven't seen Ian Hamilton throw a sinker with that velocity. Maybe he discovered a different grip on it. Maybe he discovered a different way to deliver it. He's not going to try that in a 3-2 game.
No.
But in a 5-1 game, he can try different stuff. He can tweak little things. And again, he's not trying to throw a slider for the first time. He's not trying to throw a 12-8 for the first time.
He's going to throw a knuckleball one night.
Exactly. But what he can do is, him and Austin Wells could have been talking about a different grip. Hey, move your pinky a little bit more this way. Move your index finger a little more this way. And if that generates another mile or two on velocity coming in, that's a huge help for guys like that. So, you know, these are the kind of games that are valuable for teams too. It might have helped Ian Hamilton a lot. I don't know if it did or didn't. I can't speak to that. But there's a lot of value into putting games away early and Boone putting in the guys that he wants to put in, not because of necessity, but because they need to get work in. So you got to love the way they are right now. They seem to be playing this consistent winning series baseball that you really want to see starting to get into this point of the year.
28 wins. Hopefully we're saying that number a lot more later on in the year. Third best win total, right? Because the Orioles don't have as many wins. They just have fewer losses than the Yankees, which is why they're at the top of the division right now. But the only teams ahead of them, Dodgers and Phillies. So again, like I said on yesterday's show, I would have signed up for this.
That's the company you want to be in.
Yeah. I mean, without Cole, yes. Give it to me every day and twice on Sundays. One quick thing before we leave, in case people didn't know. Ronald Blanco of the Astros got removed from his start for foreign substance.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. After he shut down the Yankees the way he did and threw a no-hitter earlier in the year. Why would he need anything on his glove? Weird. It's weird that an Astros player is caught cheating. That never happens. I don't
know what you're talking about. I've never heard
anything like that before in my life. Weird.
That listener we had the other day who wanted to know why we hate the Astros so much.
Yes.
Be into this.
Yes, the guy from England. There's another reason.
And they'll keep showing themselves too. The reasons will keep coming.
Yeah. One more time, you could join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. There's a link in the description under our YouTube videos and a 14-day free trial. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, or you can leave your questions under the pinned comment below our YouTube videos to get your questions answered for our Fan Mail Friday episode. We do it every week. It's a lot of fun. If you join the Insiders Club, you get top priority, but we'll answer your questions when you leave them on YouTube. And remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll see you guys tomorrow.